we've said this, and you tweeted this out as well. We saw both ends of the Jameis Winston experience in his 2 starts. The good, 334, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Ravens. The not so good, 235, a touchdown, 3 picks against the Chargers. Most of the yardage in the Chargers was actually in the second half when the Browns were down a significant number in that game. When you look at the video of those 2 games, what jumps out as the biggest difference in Jameis Winston's Chargers, Jameis Winston Ravens?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference is defensive style of play. The Ravens were a heavy man team and they blitzed a lot, which can give quarterbacks trouble at times, but it can also give them answers to know with the predictability of where to go with the football, how to get there, and where to, the decision timing that it takes to make some of those throws. Now, again, when a team is playing really sticky man coverage and they're blitzing a lot and making you uncomfortable, I do think that can be really one of the more challenging things for a quarterback. But the Ravens are not in the back half, as we saw Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase give them a lot of issues. They're not as good as they have traditionally been back there. The Chargers are really good. They're well coached and are pretty healthy in the back half of their secondary. Not a bunch of big names, but I do believe they have one of the better young defensive minds in Jesse Minter running that defense, who does a great job of coverage variations. And they were really confusing for the Browns and really good at feeling out concepts the Browns like to run, knowing routes receivers were going to be putting into action. And they were just really prepared and they really executed the game plan. So I don't know that. Listen, Jameis missed some throws. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't good, but I think there's a stark difference in the quality of those secondaries. And when you look at those 2 games and separate them and understand the levels of complexity the quarterback has to delineate between the snap and the throw decision, you can see why the Chargers' approach to defense, playing a higher volume, one of the highest volume zone coverages, and then being able to mix and match out of those zone coverages in very unique ways. And they like to what's called pattern match. So they're less dropping into grass and more reading out patterns and passing off and communicating. It's an extremely well-coached defense who is clicking at the right time right here, as we've seen them give a bunch of teams issues. And I am just like, the sample size for Jameis needs to grow. And obviously we will hope that he plays the last 8 games and can continue to see more time with his play callers and obviously time with his weapons and offensive line and whatnot. But this has largely been the experience of Jameis, which is a very up and down, uneven, level of performance, or this young man would be starting somewhere with a really large contract. So if he's in the backup role, he's there for a reason. It's because the play is not the level of consistency that it needs to be. You will get extreme highs with him, as we saw with the Ravens game, to an extent. Not a perfect game, but you saw, nice production. And then you will get outcomes like the Chargers game where you can see, okay, I understand why the Bucs didn't feel comfortable making him their long-term guy, or the Saints didn't feel quite comfortable giving him the reins over the last 2 or 3 years. So, listen, Jamie's going to have a nice opportunity the last 8 games. He wants to string together consistency and show that he can do this. But there are concerns from most people who have covered him for a long time that is something that he can put forward. But again, to parse out your original question, Chargers are very good. They're going to play some of the better EPA per down defense you're going to see throughout the entire season. I think Jesse Minter will be a one and done. I believe he's the Ben Johnson, who's the Lions' hot name offensive coordinator. He is going to be that this offseason for somebody, sort of in the same vein as Mike McDonald. Both of those guys went through the Michigan defensive coordinator path up into the spots they are now. So Chargers are really good. And the Saints will be an interesting challenge, but I certainly don't think they're anywhere near as competent and consistent as what the Chargers have been defensively. So the Browns will have some chances this weekend to put up points.